Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to the Sedex Annual General Meeting for 2021. I'm Stephen Esom, the Chair of the Sedex Board of Directors. It is now just past 12 p.m. UK time and I declare the meeting open. Following the introduction of UK Government COVID-19 guidance on public distancing and the prohibition of non-essential travel and public guidance, we are holding this AGM as a virtual meeting as far as possible. We have 2 member representatives present in person, and we have a further 8 or more joining virtually, which constitutes a quorum under the Sedex articles. As we have a quorum, I'll now declare the meeting can continue. So for the agenda today, I'll provide an update on governance and review of last year. Simon McCalla, Sedex's Chief Executive Officer, will provide the strategic business report for the year. And Richard Wright, Sedex's Chief Financial Officer, will provide an overview of Sedex's audited accounts for 2020. We will then open voting for the resolutions for 5 minutes. And whilst that's happening, we will hold a question and answer session during this time. You will have the opportunity to put questions to me as the chair during the meeting, and we'll have an opportunity for questions with Simon, Richard, and myself. For the later half of the meeting, we will hold the vote for the 2 vacancies for the member director elections. The vote will close and the new member directors will be announced after the end of the meeting and published on the Sedex website later this afternoon. I'm also pleased to inform you that the meeting today is being recorded so that our members and other stakeholders who could not be present can view it on the company's website in due course. So I'd like to turn to our governance updates. Over the past year, since the last AGM in 2020, we've appointed 3 new independent non-executive directors, Susan Bolton and Jeannie Arthur, who joined us last year, and Tim Brooks, who joined us in the first part of this year. Richard Wright also joined us as Sedex's Chief Financial Officer in 2020. I'd like to note that member directors Aisha Ashwani, Rose McGrath and Camerisman Trowdy are all stepping down from the board at this AGM. Camerisman joined the board in 2019, Rose joined the board in 2018 and Aisha joined the board in 2015. I'd like to thank all 3 member directors stepping down today for their contribution to the board, but I would particularly like to thank Aisha, who has served 6 years on the Sedex board and has chaired our nomination committee. As such, she's been an incredibly valuable member director and has made a very significant contribution to Sedex, for which we wish to thank her. As a result, we are holding elections for 2 member directors during the latter half of this meeting. Now I'd like to turn to last year. As for many companies and people, 2020 brought unprecedented challenges for Sedex, as well as for our members and workers in supply chains, as the impact of the pandemic was felt around the world. This year also served as a crucible for innovation and change at Sedex. The business pivoted to adapt and also to innovate with new solutions in the wake of difficult times. I would like to thank all the Sedex staff who worked very hard in difficult conditions to deliver a seamless service offering to all our customers. The challenge of a responsible business is a constant one, regardless of a global pandemic. In fact, the supply and demand pressures of COVID-19 highlighted the global need for sustainable, ethical, and resilient supply chains. The board undertook a very significant governance review last year, aligning the composition of the board and its standing committees with the UK Corporate Governance Code. This project culminated in class consent meetings in October and an extraordinary general meeting in December to ratify and embed these changes. I'm pleased to report that these changes have improved the quality of decision making on the board and will stand Sedex in good stead into the future. Our growing team at Sedex, including 3 new executive leadership hires, have built our capability to continue innovating and responding to issues affecting members. And work is now commencing for the new Sedex platform, which will transform the way businesses connect to share ethical data. Despite a challenging year, green shoots are starting to show, and I'm very much looking forward to the future. I would like to now introduce Simon McCalla, our CEO, who's going to present his review of the company's performance during the year. Simon.
Thank you, Stephen. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're joining us from. Thank you so much for giving us your time today. I'd like to thank you all for joining us after what's been a really challenging year for many people around the world. 2020 was a year where we have all had to pull together to respond to the global pandemic and maintain the health and safety of our people, as well as the business community at large. The pandemic has highlighted now, more than ever, the importance of working as a global business community. It's essential that businesses work together to collaborate throughout the supply chain, to build relationships, reduce supply chain disruption, and particularly to support workers across the supply chain. We believe that supply chains are one of the biggest levers a business has to have a positive impact on human rights and the environment. Despite the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic, our membership remained strong in 2020 at nearly 60,000 members, indicating the strong focus businesses continue to place on social sustainability. We recorded group revenue of £16.6 million, tracking closely to our reported revenue of 2019, which is only a total decrease of 4%, despite the very challenging year. Our ability to deliver this revenue was driven by the stability of our membership and the provision of new products and services. In 2020, Sedex pivoted quite quickly to support you, our members, with new capabilities that were critical to maintaining visibility at your and your supplier sites around working conditions. We developed and launched new tools and guidance to support alternative methods to assess the supply chain, given the restrictions on movement that we all had to face. At this point, I want to say a big thanks to the large number of you from our community who took part in helping bringing those tools to the wider membership, whether through listening or actively being involved in the development of the tools. We've aimed to enable our members to better understand the needs of suppliers, adapt their business operations, and continue assessing site conditions, even during safety-related restrictions, and ultimately better respond to the impacts of COVID-19, supporting human rights due diligence and efforts. We had a number of highlights in 2020. Firstly, we launched the Sedex Virtual Assessment, a first-to-market remote assessment tool. It was aligned with SMETA to allow members to continue their supply chain due diligence even while safety restrictions continued. Since launching the tool, there have been 1,674 virtual assessments conducted, and they account for 6% of all assessments on our platform. These have taken place in 99 countries, with the majority of the virtual assessments taking place in the US, the UK, and India. We also launched a COVID-19 modular self-assessment questionnaire, a questionnaire for suppliers focusing specifically on the impacts of COVID-19 to help members understand the impacts and responsive activity within that supply chain. We brought direct worker reporting to the membership, a remote worker voice tool in partnership with Ann Wider, enabling members to gather direct, anonymous feedback from site-based workers in their supply chains. And finally, in 2020, we also launched Radar, a comprehensive new risk assessment tool to help you understand labour rights and environment risks in your businesses and your supply chains. 2020 saw significant progress on our 5-year strategy. Towards the second half of the year, we started to build the new Sedex platform, which will replace Sedex Advance. The new platform will be built over a 2-year period, and we'll continue to release new features and functionality to our members every quarter to deliver as much value as possible quickly for our members. The new platform represents transformative change for us as we expand and evolve our service offering. It will enable business to make use of data at scale, simplify managing supply chains, and make sharing data far easier. The quality of our audits is incredibly important to us, and so to reinforce and improve that quality, we've developed an audit quality programme, which is now fully operational. Elements of this programme include setting common standards for our affiliate audit companies and carrying out regular reviews of those very companies. We're excited to form a new partnership with technology company HIGCO, which will create access to the HIG facility environmental assessment to Sedex members and broaden our environmental sustainability insights. We've continued to invest in our staff as our principal resource, growing our team to 130 people, including 3 new executive team members, which will scale our capacity. We opened this, our new London office, which has been designed to bring our teams closer together with more collaboration spaces and plenty of room to accommodate new colleagues as we grow. We're looking forward to working together in our London home in the future as lockdowns ease and as we start to return to the office after working from home for most of 2020. This year we offered new consulting services in China, providing Chinese businesses support with responsible sourcing. This new suite of consulting services supports companies at different maturity levels to grow their responsible business capabilities. And finally, we revised our Articles of Association to enable fairer voting rights for members. At an extraordinary general meeting in December, Sedex members voted unanimously to change Sedex's Articles of Association. All members now have equal voting rights at board elections, and the board will consist of up to 5 member director roles, up to 5 independent directors, and 2 executive directors, the CEO and the CFO. Members will be able to vote on the appointment of member directors at board elections. So looking forward, we continue to deliver the Sedex 2025 strategy at speed, working with our members to meet customer needs, combined with best practice in responsible business and delivering the highest quality tools. Along with this new platform, we'll be developing new training and consulting services in the UK, Europe and Asia, building a new community programme and continuing to evolve our Sedex methodology to better detect, prevent and remedy issues. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you, the Sedex members and community, for your continued support this year, helping us assess supply chains and maintaining responsible business practices during this challenging time. I believe that together, as a community, we've continued to make a huge positive impact to the lives of workers around the world, despite very challenging circumstances. Thank you. Back to you, Steve.
I'd like to turn to Richard, who will take us through the financial summary.
Thank you, Stephen. So, 2020 was a very challenging year for all of us in many different ways. We were all impacted, including many of our members. But despite that, our revenue and our membership numbers were very resilient through 2020. In fact, membership revenue alone, which represents 80% of our revenue, was unchanged through the year. We did see a small reduction in total revenue as a result of a reduction in conference income and audit fees. We weren't able to hold any face-to-face conferences, and audit fees were impacted in quarter two of the year, when lockdowns first started to come through. Once the virtual assessment had been launched, our audit fees started to recover significantly. Indeed, revenue in total recovered well through the year, and in the quarter 4 of last year, revenue returned to growth with some 3% growth. And since then, it has accelerated, achieving 10% growth in the first quarter of 2021. Membership numbers are now above 60,000. Our operating costs were well controlled through the year, and in fact were lower than in 2019, which meant we maintained a healthy level of profitability, around some 4.6 million of underlying EBITDA. Turning to the balance sheet, we started to increase investment in tech, and in particular in developing the new platform. Investment in tech grew from around 1 million in the previous year to 2.2 million in 2020, and we expect that to grow significantly further in 2021 and 2022 as we develop the new platform. Our very strong profitability meant that our cash balance grew in the year from 4.8 million to 7.1 million, leaving us in a very strong position to be able to fund the development of the new platform. And we'll be able to do that through our own resources. So in summary, despite a very difficult situation, we delivered a solid operating and financial performance. Membership numbers and revenue were stable and have since returned to growth. We delivered healthy profitability, and we've accumulated some £7 million in the bank that enables us to invest in developing our platform. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Simon and Richard. I now move to the formal part of the meeting, and the notice of the annual general meeting was emailed to members on the 23rd of April 2021 in accordance with our articles. Accordingly, the requisite notice for the meeting has been given. I propose, therefore, that with your consent, the notice of the meeting should be taken as read. In accordance with the Sedex Articles of Association, voting today will be done by way of a poll on each of the resolutions put to the meeting, and will include those proxy votes communicated in advance by authorised member representatives. I should mention, for those members who have already lodged a proxy, they do not, of course, need to vote electronically unless they want to change their vote. I move to the resolutions, and I will read the 6 resolutions which will be voted upon today. The first resolution is to approve a minor amendment to Article 46 of the Sedex Articles of Association as set out in the notice. As currently drafted, Article 46 allows the members to elect a candidate to fill a member director vacancy on the board. However, in a contested vote, such as the one we have today, it would not be possible to name the relevant directors in the notice of the AGM ahead of time. For that reason, and advice from our legal advisors, KPMG, we have proposed that the articles empower the board to ratify the appointment of those member director candidates who win the election promptly following the meeting. Please note that this is a special resolution, and as such requires 75% positive votes from those casting a vote or voting by proxy. The second resolution today is to approve the Sedex annual report and accounts for the year ended 2020. The next resolutions are to re-elect member directors to the board. As part of the governance review undertaken in 2020, changes were made to the board composition. To effect these changes, all member directors were required to step down at this AGM, and 5 member directors are to be appointed to the new board. In order to preserve some continuity, 3 of the current member directors have agreed to remain on the board for a further 1-year period, subject to a positive vote from the membership. So therefore, the third resolution is to re-elect Samuel Cliff for a further 1-year period to the board. Resolution 4 is to re-elect Mardi Job for a further 1-year period to the board. The 5th resolution is to re-elect Kevin O'Neill for 1 further year to the board. The final resolution is that the board is recommending that RSM UK Audit LLP be appointed as auditors for Sedex for financial year 2021. I propose therefore that RSM UK Audit LLP to be appointed as the company auditors for the financial year 2021. I now request that you cast your votes to approve these resolutions. We will hold the voting open for 5 minutes, and during that period we'll proceed with a Q&A session. Thank you. The vote is now open, and we will await questions from the membership. Ladies and gentlemen, as you vote on the resolutions, I'd like to open up the meeting to questions from our members. You can submit a question via the chat window to Simon, Richard or myself. We're logging all questions coming in online, and we'll try to reply to as many questions as we can during the time available today. Whilst we're waiting for questions, Simon, I wonder if I could ask you a question. What's happening with the launch of the new Sedex platform?
So the new Sedex platform is being delivered in a quite different way from Advance. One of the things that we are doing is working, rather than spending a lot of time trying to gather requirements from everybody and spending months and months in committee rooms, what we're doing is we're working with members who wish to get involved in the development program to try out new features. And as such, we are releasing the platform over the next 2 years in small batches. And we've just at the end of Q1 released our first set of features, which was our new onboarding capability as well as our site status dashboard, which has been very well received. And those were built with a handful of members who wanted to get involved very closely with development. And then we are able then to take feedback from the wider membership as to whether those features are working well or not. That seems to be working extremely well and has allowed us to deliver the software much faster than we did previously. And we're getting an incredible amount of engagement, which I'm thrilled with. So I'd certainly welcome any of you who want to get involved in that program and have early access to some of our newer capabilities to get in touch and get involved, because it's something that we should be doing over the next 2 years as we deliver the whole platform. And actually on that point, Stephen, it's worth pointing out, we aren't turning off Sedex Advanced during that period, and I don't want people to be worried that there's a big system change. What we're doing is we are slowly phasing in the new features, and then when people are happy with those features, we will then use those features will be available on the new platform alongside features on the existing platform. So what we hope to do is have a process that allows for people to continue using the platform they know whilst getting used to the new platform.
Thank you. I'll just wait for a moment to see if we have any. Yes, we have a question from Kaman Yakub. When will new Sedex members? When will new member directors be announced? So that's the question. As I mentioned before, we are holding a board meeting immediately after this AGM, where the board will ratify the AGM results, and we hope to have those published on the website by the end of the day. Thank you. And another one from Dave Crowley. Is there a statement which could be made regarding DEI activities at Sedex? That's diversity, equality and inclusion.
So for the first time ever, our annual report this year includes data about the diversity measures we have within the business here in terms of the diversity of our staff, and in terms of and that makeup across our entire business, and we certainly intend to continue publishing that year on year in our reports. We're also undertaking a very strong process inside our own business to ensure that we are looking and making sure that we're validating our own diversity activities, and we're working with third parties to do that. In terms of the broader supply chain, that is a topic that is becoming increasingly common in the conversations I'm having with members, and it's something we'll be looking as part of our methodology to understand how we can deliver, which is that diversity across your supply chains and understanding how that impacts you and your businesses, and that's something we'll be looking at this year as well.
Thank you. We have a question from Emily Shepherd. Will there be a review of the pricing structure so that the high turnover, low profits import companies can have AB membership at an economically viable price?
So there is no immediate change to our pricing policies at the moment. Obviously, as we develop new features and new capabilities on the platform, and particularly as we start to look at a more modular methodology, for those of you who want more flexibility, we'll obviously take a look at how best to give you value for money membership across those products and services. So we do expect at some point in the next 12 months to start the process of a pricing review and looking at how best to do that. Clearly, what's important for us as a business is to ensure you're getting value for money for your services, and that the services that we provide you and the cost to you of accessing those services allow you to run your businesses economically and profitably. So that is a balanced conversation that we'll be having with you as members and also across our board and our executive team. We'll give you an update on that nearer the time when we start to look at that.
Thank you. A question from Jane Blacklock. Is there going to be a replacement for the Versic Maplecroft Risk Service when it lapses next month?
So we have the new Radar tool, which it contains data from many more than just the various Maplecroft sources. I think we bring in, from memory, we bring in over 10 data sources into that very tool. We are constantly looking at the data that we're bringing into that tool and what is the most appropriate data, and also what is economically viable for us to include in the tool and provide out to you as members. So certainly we are not. As we look at those different tools, what we need to do is get feedback from you as to are they providing you the data that you need. We're not focusing on any one specific data feed, but we'll be looking at those in the round and making sure that the tool provides the capabilities you need.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to pause the Q&A at the moment. There'll be an opportunity to return to it during the member director elections, but at the moment, as you can see, the resolutions are now closed and those votes will be tallied. And the results will be displayed. They're all passed, aren't they? All right, yes. So I will read the results of the resolutions. So for the special resolution, which was the amendment to the Sedex articles, that has been passed. The first ordinary resolution, again, that has been passed. Resolution 2 has been passed. Resolution 3 has been passed, and that's to re-elect Samuel Cliff for a further 1-year period. The fourth resolution, to elect Mardy Job for a further 1-year period, also has been passed. And election of Kevin O'Neill for a further 1-year period to the board has also been passed. And in terms of the resolution to appoint RSM as our auditors, that has also been passed. So thank you very much for your votes, and thank you for your support. That is very much appreciated. Now I turn to probably the most important votes we have in front of us, and I now propose that we hold a poll to vote for 2 new member directors from those candidates whose election statement was published on the Sedex website when the notice of the AGM was circulated. The 2 candidates with the most votes, whether cast by proxy or by voting today, will take up these member directors' roles, subject to ratification by the board immediately following the AGM. Ratification by the board is a formality. The board can only refuse to ratify an appointment in the event of a technical irregularity in the election process. The voting is now open and will remain open for the next 5 minutes. So we can continue with questions and answers. So if any member viewing wishes to submit a question, Simon, Richard and myself would be very happy to try our best to answer it. We have another question from Jane Blacklock. We've been impacted by the changes to associate audit company membership, and we have heard that there are a number of boutique assessment companies who have left AAG due to the cost of membership. Is there going to be a review of this to enable smaller firms to rejoin? So it's about the cost of becoming an associate audit partner.
Okay, so the most important thing for us and for our methodology is to ensure the quality of audits and to make sure that we are servicing and delivering to our members. And what we have tried to do with our audit quality program and our associate audit membership is ensure a broad diversity of auditors, both from very large through to smaller, much more boutique auditors. Now, clearly there is a cost to us to provide the services and particularly to ensure the quality measures that we wish to provide as part of our audit quality program. And those are measures that are required of us by a very significant part of our membership. So we have to balance the cost of that with the cost of the audit companies joining us. We're absolutely committed to ensuring that is fair, that price is fair, and that we review that on an annual basis, and we will be doing that. It's difficult for me to say what is the right price and what isn't the right price right at this point, because everybody has different financial circumstances within their business, and clearly as the audit quality program starts to embed in and mature, we'll need to understand the costs of running that and working with you all to ensure that we get the right quality of data back. So I'm absolutely committed to ensuring that we review that and that it's fair. What I can't do right today is commit to a specific price point, but I'm very happy to take this offline and have a conversation and understand where that situation is.
Thank you very much, Simon. We have a question from Vimala Suresh. Can you give more training for Sedex members? How to be more strong in the system with involvement?
So if I understand that right, and thanks for the question. I mean, yes, absolutely, we want to provide more training. And I think from your question, if I understand it right, you're looking for training on how to use the platform better and get more out of it. And certainly, so we have a number of mechanisms for that. Firstly, we have all of our documentation that's published, and I urge everybody to read that. We'll be ensuring that as much of that is translated as possible into as many languages as we can do. We also have our online training and our e-learning platform, which allows you to interact with the system at the right points and to learn as you go with our platform. And as I mentioned in my talk earlier on, we're also committed to providing further consulting in our global offices to ensure that people understand how to kick off responsible sourcing programs from being very beginners right through to quite advanced programs. And there's been a huge amount of success in the Asia office, particularly out of Shanghai, in helping people just get started on the platform and get alongside building their own programs inside their business. So I definitely urge you to have a look at those and get involved in those. And we can certainly provide, if you'd like to leave your details, we can certainly provide you with some further pointers on that.
Thank you. A question from Searching Ho. As an export company, we always face the problem of having too many ethical audits from the big players instead of using Sedex. How active is Sedex in approaching companies to explore Sedex instead of their own ethical standard?
Okay, very active. I think there's two ways to look at this question. Firstly, clearly we are spending a considerable amount of time talking to companies and asking them to become members and get involved in our programme. And we've seen considerable growth in company membership as a result of that, both on the supplier side but also on the buyer side as well. And as the more people come onto our platform, the more chances are that you'll have those you'll have that availability to see Sedex audits and to interact with customers who are familiar with that. I think, ultimately we're also trying to work across some of the other schemes to understand where we can work together to try and reduce some of this complexity. And we have regular conversations with both industry groups as well as our other competitors. And you'll see with things like our partnership with Anwider and with HIG, what we're trying to do is to work with other companies to where we can make it easy to bring multiple audits together and combine those, then we are trying to do that. So we'll continue to do that work. We do absolutely recognise that this can be quite a burden on people. It is a competitive market out there, and we do compete against other companies. And I think that competitive market is important too, and it's important that we have diversity of suppliers in that market because it helps all of us to improve and stay on our game. So we will do our best to try and make sure that we do everything we can to make your lives as easy as possible, and we encourage as many people to be Sedex members as we can.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Simon, for those questions, and thank you very much for submitting the questions. Hopefully you found the opportunity useful. The voting is now closed for the 2 new member directors. I declare the poll closed. The board meeting is to ratify the results of the election immediately following this meeting, and the final results will be communicated to the successful candidates and published on the website later today. So that concludes the business of this meeting. I thank you all for your interest and attendance, and I declare the meeting closed. As I said, the final results of the meeting will be posted on our website as soon as practicable. Thank you very much, and thank you for your attendance.